Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome. Today we're going to do an unboxing of D-Day at Omaha Beach from Decision Games. Now this is a solitaire war game designed by John Butterfield that covers the first day of the US landings on Omaha Beach in D-Day in World War II. Let's jump in, take a look at the components, and offer some initial impressions. So the cover of the box, U.S. troops landing on Omaha Beach to kind of set the mood. It's got some heft to it. It looks like a 2-inch box here. And if we look at some of the general information on the back, it's designed, of course, and it's got stamped all over it solitaire, but there is a 2-player cooperative mode. And the game looks like it divides pretty easily in the Western U.S. forces and the Eastern U.S. forces. So one player could take the west side, one player could take the east side, and you could play it as a cooperative game, which I think would be an interesting experience as well. There's playing time is listed as 2 to 8 hours, and there's 4 scenarios, and that breaks down over each one of those scenarios, and we'll talk about those as we kind of take a look at the rule book and things. Company level game, each hex is relatively small at 250 meters, 275 yards. Complexity is listed as medium, but I want to talk a little bit about that as we dig in and take a look at the rules, because there's one thing that I wasn't aware about the game that actually makes me feel like it might even be a little bit more accessible than kind of a medium level complexity war game. And solitaire rating, of course, is very high, as would be expected for a game of this nature. But let's open it up now and take a look at some of the things inside. So we start out with the rule book. Now, the rule book's matte paper, it's color, it's 40 pages, but there's a qualifier in here, I think, as we look at it. And this, again, is a John Butterfield design. One of the things that, as I get familiar with some of his games, is that I'm really impressed with the clarity of the rules. I've been skimming through them and reading different portions and things like that. And so many times where I've read a paragraph, and then I'll say, but what about... And then the next paragraph answers the question that was in my head. So it's just really clear and really easy to understand. Lots of full color examples. I was looking and reading some of the examples, and I almost feel like you could pretty much start with some of the examples and then look up the rules, because the examples do such a good job at covering all the edge cases and things like that. So nice color, very clear, all things kind of broken down into various elements that make it easy to understand, and various mechanics. And at its heart, as we look at the sequence of play, it's not a very complex game. I feel like this is much more accessible than I imagined it to be. But maybe once I start playing, I think the complexity will start to ramp up a little bit. But it feels like it's just both very well explained and very clear what you're supposed to do. Now, here is in section 3 we have setting up for play, and this lists the 4 different scenarios, and I think that's worthwhile explaining, because this, I think, does connect to both the complexity and the accessibility of the game. So you've got 4 scenarios in the game. The first one is Easy Fox, which is just using the east half of the game map, and it's a quick way to get used to the game and kind of learn the play. So that's designed, I think, as a learning scenario. Then the heart of the game is really these 3 scenarios that are listed here. First Waves, Beyond the Beach, and then D-Day at Omaha Beach. So the First Waves covers the first 4 hours, so really the beach landing portion of it. It takes about 3 hours to play. But the interesting thing about that is that to play that, you only need rule sections 1 to 13, which take you up to page 24, I think it is. Yeah, so command and control. So half the rule book, once you've got half the rule book done up through section 13 here, yeah, it ends in the bottom of page 24, you can then go in and play that first scenario, which is the beach landings themselves, and get used to the combat system and things like that. Then the second level of the heart of the game here is this Beyond the Beach scenario, which covers the subsequent 8 hours once the troops got inland a little bit. For that one, you do need all the rule sections, and the playing time's about 4 to 5 hours. Then you've got the full campaign game, D-Day at Omaha Beach, the whole first 12 hours of the day, which is the full game. You're playing 1 to 32 turns using all the rules, and it takes about 6 to 8 hours to play. So I think that's really kind of cool, because I think you've got a shorter version, which is the First Waves, that's very playable if you've got, an afternoon or something like that. And then if you want to really jump into it, to the campaign game over a couple of game sessions, probably you've got that D-Day at Omaha Beach, the full game there. So really excited to kind of dig in and try those different scenarios as well. I'm not sure there's too much else to mention about the rule book in and of itself. It just seems very clear, very easy to understand, well explained. It looks like it's almost fun to read. It's so well written. That might be a good way to talk about a rule book. Now, I like this. I always feel like when you get little baggies in a game, it's such a nice little touch. It feels like we love you we're going to put baggies in there. So that's always cool. So we have some baggies. Now, it's a deck playing game. There are card decks involved for a lot of different things. 55 cards, I believe, here, and I'll show some close-ups on them. Yeah, 54 play cards, and then a neat little U.S. action summary card here, which seems like a really good idea because I was listening to someone talking about how they're always fumbling through these big player aids. And this is so small, I could see just having these lined up on the side. This seems like a really good idea that I'd like to see in more war games where you have a player aid on a card. Now, the print is a little bit small, but it's perfectly legible. It seems like such a great idea, and maybe we'll see more games do that. So here we have the cards in of themselves, and this, I think, is a good example. There's a certain, I think, rock, paper, scissors type of element to gameplay where you're going to have units, German units matching up by these symbols here. You're going to either triangles or circles or diamonds in this case as well. And that's going to determine where some of the fire goes. So the AI system in the game is very intricate and very detailed in terms of determining what the Germans are going to do and how they're going to defend the beaches. Then there's also an element in here of, and it shows up not so much on these cards, but each of the U.S. units have certain capacities and certain skills and certain movements. They might have, you might need a bazooka to take on a certain position in the German defensive. You might have to make a flanking move. And so there's matching up your offensive capacity to take out some of the German units, which has also this kind of strategic and tactical level game to it as well. But these cards, again, you'll notice there are no dice in the box. So all your combat resolution is done by drawing the cards. And then this middle section on the card here is an event, which kind of gives you a little bit of unpredictability and a little bit more randomness to the game as well, but in a kind of a fun way where you're going to see different things that just happened and you have to react to. This is pretty cool. This is the, I think, how long is this? 16-page historical overview, The Greatest Day. Really nice document. This is glossy paper. It's full color, going through some of the hours. It's got the timeline of the battle, a lot of the different positions and stuff. So just what a wonderful supplement to the game itself. I've been doing a lot where I've been playing a game and then reading a book that covers the same topic, and I feel like this covers that element to the game well, and I love it when games really kind of invite you into the history and invite you into what happened. And again, the maps, and this is all by hour, incredible amount of research. Again, this is done, this particular part of the game is done as well by John Butterfield, so a lot of historical research you can see. I mean, just look at this map. This is so cool. So just a nice little touch to kind of help with immersion into the game and help the player, invite the player into the history of the game. So let's take a look at the counters. Here are the U.S. counters. There are 2 counter sets printed on both sides. I think 300 and something counters all together. And so there's a step system to casualties that you're going to be using. Perfectly clear. Again, we can see on these units where we've got the diamonds, the triangles, and the circles that you're going to be having some. There's that, again, matching up to determine where the German fire goes as your units are advancing. So lots of little puzzles and strategic and kind of tactical puzzles and problems to solve as you're making your way and trying to find your way through the soft spots in the German defenses. So again, we can see the 2 halves of the U.S. forces. One is lighter green to determine, I think this is the east side or the west side, of course, and then the darker green forces are the other U.S. element that lands. So we've got that. Then we've got on the second sheet, these are the German forces, and as well as some combat markers. We can see these clearing hexes where your engineers have a chance to clear some of the obstacles to make it easier for subsequent troops to get through. These are the German units up here. And basically, you're going to add kind of a second level to many of these units to make them into more complex formations. And then we've also got some German armored units that I think show up in the optional rules as you go on. So there is an element of optional rules that can extend the play even more. Although I should mention, from kind of reading and kind of interacting with a number of people that have played the game and from watching a few videos on the game, this feels very much like a rogue-style game, and in the PC world, the rogue-style game, of course, is a game that you're going to lose, right? So you're going to play, and you're going to lose. The first time you play, you're going to lose quickly and probably badly. And then you're going to lose again and again and again. And the idea is eventually, each time you learn something and you want to jump back in and play, and eventually you might finally win the whole game. But winning is a rare occurrence in this game. It's the losing and the kind of gradual skill increase that makes this so much fun. And so I get a sense that people that play this game, because of that, one of the questions I try to kind of think about as doing one of these unboxing is what's the replayability and what's the depth of play. I think this game has a ton of depth. I mean, you've got the 4 scenarios, you're going to be learning the system, you're going to lose badly, then you've got to figure out how to just get, solve the problem of the beaches, then you've got to solve the problem of beyond the beaches. So I think there's just hours and hours of play here. To give you an idea, I don't generally sleeve my cards. I just something I don't really do that often. I'm going to sleeve my cards on this game because I feel like they're going to get a ton of use and they need to be sleeved to protect them. But anyway, I wander a little bit, but I do think that is something worth mentioning, the sense that I get for how this game plays and from what I've learned about it from other sources and things. So here are player aids. Interesting enough, this is the one place where I was surprised that they're done in black and white. I think that color would enhance these. They're perfectly functional and they work really well. I think they work really well. I mean, not having played, I get a sense. But their charts basically on the German fire chart, U.S. weapons chart, and amphibious result tables. So basically, this amphibious results table is you're going to pick a card, and that's going to determine what happens to your troops, whether they land on the spot they're supposed to land on, whether they get eliminated in landing before they even make it to the beach, whether they drift one way or the other, whether they get delayed and stuff like that. So lots of different things can go wrong to test your result. And that's, I think, another place where it really kind of speaks to the replayability of the game, because I think I get a sense that you could start this game 10 times and you're going to have a starting situation that's different every time because of the way these amphibious landing results turn out. So one time your armored units may get completely destroyed, they might get delayed, you're landing just with infantry, you're going to have infantry clustered together in one spot, you're going to have infantry in a different spot in the next game. So lots of variety that starts out the game there because of the way that drift chart and those kind of landing variability work. So just a lot of, and I think that speaks to, it seems to me, and again, and I hesitate to say too much without really digging in and playing, but it seems to me there's a lot of thought put into almost every step of this game to make it a challenging, thoughtful game that's going to have a lot of fun and a lot of replayability to it. Here's our German fire chart. We've taken a look at that. Now, here's the sequence of play, and I do think this speaks to the complexity of the game. So this is the extended game. The extended game, and I'm not quite sure on this, but the extended game and the first kind of the first 4 hours there of the game have a slightly different rule set and slightly different time scale, I think, to it. And so there's a little bit of rules differences between those two. And this basic game here, again, is listed. This is the landings for the first 4 hours. But if you look at this, the sequence of play isn't super complex here. You've got a U.S. amphibious operations phase where you're going to determine the landings. Then you've got an event phase starting on turn 2. Then you've got the German fire phase. Then if you have U.S. engineers, they do something. Then you have a U.S. action phase, which of course is movement and attacking the German positions. Then you end your turn. So a relatively straightforward and simple sequence of play. And I realize there is some complexity to the elements within those phases, but overall it seems like a very smooth and easy kind of system to play, if you would. And here is just the rules for the introductory scenario, and then the U.S. attack results charts. So again, based on what type of weapons you have in attack strength and whether you possess the right weapons or not, and whether you've kind of revealed the German units or not. So let's take a look at the map. This is a mounted map, which is really tons of color. And this in the map, I think, is also both. And if we take a look at it, I'll show a big picture of it because it's hard to show on a small camera like this too. But wonderfully colorful. It is overlaid with the game system. And so as you're looking at it, it's both a map and a system of fire fields. All these little colored dots here are the fields of fire of the various German positions. So for example, this C10 German position is a blue position, so it's going to be able to fire into these hexes that have blue colorings on it. And the dark blue, the half blue and half clear, and then just the blue ring on it represent the different levels of fire that can be put onto one different hex. So the heaviest fire is this dark blue. So if you're the U.S. forces coming at the C10 position from the east or the northeast, you're going to face the heaviest fire. Looks like you might want to approach this one from relatively less, this position here, which has got the intermittent fire, where you've got half blue and half clear. So as you can see, as you're looking at this game, the map is giving you a lot of information that can help you process good strategies for getting through. And then just a lot of different aids around there for kind of keeping track of turns and keeping track of lost units and things like that. That, I think, brings us to the end. Again, there are no dice because all your combat results are determined by die roll, not by die roll, by card draw. There you go. D-Day at Omaha Beach. I'm going to bring this one. I had bought this because I'd heard great things about it. I put it on my shelf and it's been sitting there, and I got busy with kind of other things. Although when I bought it, I thought, wow, I think I'm really going to like this. And I've been following a couple of conversations on some gaming forums about D-Day at Peleliu. And then I thought, I really have to get into this sooner or later. And then I watched a video of someone playing this on YouTube, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to dig into this now. So this is coming to the channel in January, at the latest February. I'm going to learn the system, play a couple games, and then give it a try. I think probably do the landing beach, the first 4 hours on the beachhead. Try that scenario on video for sure, because I think this will make for really good content, and it will definitely be something at which we do not succeed too, which always makes for fun and entertainment. So thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new, please consider subscribing. If you've played the game, let me know your thoughts on it. If there's elements you'd like to see or questions you've got, please drop them down in the comments as well. But I'm very excited to play this one. I mean, you do an unboxing and you get general impressions, and just my understanding of what the game was, and looking at the game and the components and looking through the rules, it makes me even more excited to play than I was before. So very excited to get this one to the channel sooner rather than later. We will see this coming up soon. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great day. Everyone, take care. Bye.